So in this segment, we're going to be talking about UK food exporters demanding urgent action over post-Brexit vet shortages. So some of the EU vets that lived in the UK have left, and the simple fact is, I think vets, British vets would rather deal with nice cuddly animals like cats and dogs rather than cows and other things. Geography is a key problem there. If you don't live near farms, you're not going to be able to get out there, and if you're a vet and you don't live near a port, you're not going to be of much help either, I think. And if I was a vet, I'd rather deal with people's like cuddly animals than a bull or something. So the food and drinks industry is demanding urgent action from the government to tackle a severe shortage of vets to process UK food exports after Brexit. And once we start doing physical inspections, I think these problems are going to get worse. So industry groups warn that a sharp decline in EU vets registering to work in the UK since Brexit, coupled with an immense increase in paperwork for exporters, was creating an unsustainable staffing squeeze. And once the UK starts importing, beef from, Australia and things like that, these things will get worse. Food producers estimate that Brexit-related bureaucracy, which has seen the number of official export forms to be filed increase 12-fold since January 2021, is costing the industry £60 million a year. And, that's just because of paperwork. It's crazy. £60 million a year for an industry that the margins weren't the best anyways. Qualified vets are required to sign off the highly detailed export health certificates, or EHCs, needed to send food to the EU after Brexit, putting huge pressure on the UK's network of vets, according to the British Veterinary Association. The number of EHCs has increased from 29,000 in 2020 to more than 288,000 in 2021, according to official figures, requiring the equivalent of 580,000 hours of work for vets. And the simple fact is, we don't have enough vets to do this sort of stuff. And you can see the huge increase here, which just shows you how much we export to EU countries over third countries and things like that. It's just madness. Over 10 times. I think they put it at 12 times the amount, which is just insane. This much paperwork because Brexiteers can like it or not, we do that much trade with our nearest neighbours. And the simple fact is, we're not going to be able to export that much agri-food products to Australia and New Zealand because they don't need our stuff. These are agricultural powers in their own right. James Russell, Senior Vice President of the British Veterinary Association, said the nosedive in EU veterinary registrants since Brexit, coupled with soaring demand for veterinary certification, was creating a storm of shortages in the profession. It takes 5 years to become a vet. He had that shifting vets from farm work to export certification was like robbing Peter to pay Paul. So essentially, you're just moving vets from doing farm work, which can be Brexit related if they're going to export those agri-foods from those places, to moving them to paperwork, which they probably wouldn't want to do in the first place. Doesn't make sense. You need to increase the net amount of vets, and the simple fact is we can't do that because it takes 5 years to train vets. The potential consequences are worrying. If we can't find long-term solutions to veterinary workforce shortages, we will see impacts on animal welfare, public health and international trade, he warned. The longer these animals in transit, especially live animals, the worse it becomes for them. The more they'll suffer from a really traumatic process as is, because let's not pretend the agri-food, when it comes to animal products, is a good industry. It's brutal. It's really brutal, and these animals are going to be treated far worse than they already are because of Brexit. It's barbaric. Before Brexit, EU vets working in the UK were a critical part of the certifying workforce, according to the BVA. And the simple fact is, British vets, I don't think want to work in these, doing these export certificates. However, since new immigration controls came into force in January, the numbers applying to work in Britain fell from 1,132 to just 364 last year, according to data from the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons. So you can see a massive drop-off, and if you look at this graph here, you can see it's below 50 consistently, potentially below 25 in certain months. Whilst if you look at these other months, you can see well, to be fair, it's dropped off between 2014 and 2020, but it's never lower than it has been now, which is crazy. And so it just beggars belief that this is happening, really. Food industry groups estimate that absorbing the costs of the new sanitary and phytosanitary measures, so-called SPS checks, would require an additional 3 billion of sales in the first year of Brexit. And the thing is, right, sales are falling. The Food and Drink Federation have said food sales to the EU have dropped by 2.4 billion or 23.7% in the first 3 quarters of 2021 as a result of Brexit red tape and COVID-19. And the thing is, right, you can blame COVID to an extent, but whoever's importing the meat from in the EU are looking at other sources. We've spoken previously how sausage makers have switched from buying pork from the UK to buying it from Denmark, and that will keep happening. Because the paperwork is such a nightmare. And you've got to think, right, if you work in manufacturing or sales or whatever reason you have to import this meat, right, if there's any issues with the paperwork, it will get delayed and potentially rejected, and that thing you needed, those foods you needed to import, they won't come in. So you are better off looking at another EU country or some sort of other source within the EU to import the goods from, even if it takes slightly longer. Say if you import from Ireland, it might take a bit longer because of geography, but at least you're guaranteed to get it, which is what I would be doing if I was, a manufacturer in the EU. If I worked in the agri-food sector, I would look at cutting off the UK as much as possible and sourcing it from elsewhere. Karen Goodburn, director of the Chilled Food Association, said figures were actually an underestimate of total cost to the food industry, and they excluded the wider cost of new bureaucracy for agri-food products, which, you got to think, right, they've taken a 2.4 billion pounds hit as is, right? They're saying they need an additional 3 billion pounds in sales, extra sales, really, in the first year post-Brexit. Now, shouldn't that be higher then? Shouldn't it be 5.4 billion they would need in additional sales to make up for the shortfall they had last year, and also the increase that they need? I could be wrong. I could have read the numbers wrong, but by the looks of it, they would need 5.4 billion in sales to kind of make up for the amount they've lost in the last year, and also the extra to cover all the SPS checks, which Britain will continue to decline when it comes to the export of agri-foods. Because of the paperwork, you can get farmed goods from elsewhere. Post-Brexit rules requiring detailed documentation of source produce in composite products. This is, really where the M&S guy struggled, such as meals or processed snacks, were further straining the system, and many food companies had ceased trading with the EU. As a result, M&S would be one of them, where they've had to change a lot of their supply chains. Because the thing is, right, if you're selling, something like ham and cheese, for example, the bread might need, certain paperwork and documentation. The ham would need it because it's an agri-food product, and the cheese would need it as well. So, if the cheese comes from a different farm or a different source, you're going to need multiple layers of paperwork just for a sandwich. So, without urgent action, the situation is only set to deteriorate, and there is no quick fix. As an example, it takes more than 5 years to train a vet. We need to certify EHCs, Goodburn added. I thought it was 5 years. I guess it's more than 5 years. Maybe they need an additional qualification for the EHCs. The SBS Certification Working Group, a cross-industry body that includes 26 food producer groups from millers to pet food producers and shellfish farmers, is demanding that the government do more to ease the short-term recruitment of vets and speed up the process of digitisation of certificates. Another problem of this is that the UK wanted to use their own IT system, which the EU said, cool, if you do that, we need wet signatures. That's caused its own problems. If the UK used an EU kind of IT system, we wouldn't be facing these problems as much, and we could use digitised certificates. As it is right now, as far as I'm aware, there has to be wet signatures, which is slower than using digitised signatures. Another problem. Ease short-term recruitment of vets. I don't know how you're going to do that if it takes over 5 years to become a vet and to be able to authorise these health certificates. I don't know what kind of shortcuts they could take. It doesn't seem feasible, given the fact that a vet is a very skilled person. The group, which is chaired by Goodburn, is asking the government to seek a formal SPS agreement with Brussels to reduce the checks, something that the government has consistently ruled out on the grounds that it requires too much alignment with EU law, because the key problem is the UK wants some sort of equivalency deal with the EU to kind of help this process, but the EU want the UK to sign up to dynamic alignment, which means that once the EU rules change, the UK rules also have to change. And to be fair, if I was an EU member, I would also want the UK to sign up to dynamic alignment. It just makes more sense. The British Meat Processors Association said the BVA's report underlined that current health certification arrangements were unsustainable because of the fact you're putting a massive load on vets, which we already have a massive shortage on, and no doubt you'll burn out these vets, and what will happen is they'll just go back to doing, normal vet stuff, looking after cuddly animals. The entire British Food Association needs a solution which removes the need for these processes that requires a comprehensive veterinary agreement with the EU based largely on some form of alignment. So industry is saying, look, you need to get alignment with the EU, and the UK are saying, nah bro, Brexit benefits sovereignty. Not only will this cut costs, but it will put veterinary resources back where it's needed, the BMPA added. The DEFRA, the Agricultural Department, said it was taking steps to address the issue, including more funding, adding vets to the Home Office shortage list. But the thing is, the vets aren't coming here anymore. That's a key problem. You can put them on the shortage list, fine. You should have done that really from the start. But the simple fact is, I don't think this will be the end all and be all to get EU vets to come back here. They're also tripling the number of official veterinarians qualified to sign EHCs, which is fine. But the question is, do British vets actually want to do this? Do they want to be the ones dealing with EHCs? I don't think so. The only way to solve this is if DEFRA pay up and pay these people a lot of money to switch from doing whatever they're doing now to go on to deal with health certificates. The department said it was also in discussion with the EU Commission and would welcome any flexibility that could be offered by EU border control posts in handling SPS issues. Now, EU the border controls dealing with British goods aren't as aggressive as they could be. The French have threatened in the fish wars that they could put more stringent SPS checks and things like that. Not all the goods coming out of the UK are physically inspected; only some of them are. But I don't think the Commission will be more flexible on this. I'm sure Sefcovic will point at his desk on a piece of paper that says "dynamic alignment, dog." But yeah, we continue to work closely with the meat processing and veterinary industries to ease any pressures on the market, the department said. So, with the amount of EHCs being produced, you can see that the simple fact is the UK do so much trade with the EU that these EHCs have gone up by about 12 times the number pre-Brexit. So what the British government has to do here, if it wants to solve the issues and keep, the UK's agri-food industry as viable as it is right now, without having to cut it down massively, is to get dynamic alignment with the EU. That's it. That's the only answer. Because without us doing that, we're going to continue to struggle to export agri-foods to the EU and also Northern Ireland, even though exports to Northern Ireland are easier. And, what's going to happen is this industry is just going to be decimated, and it's just going to deal mostly with the domestic food market. And let's not forget, with the New Zealand deal and the Australia deal coming into effect, the farms are going to struggle even more. So not only are they going to lose their foreign market, the EU, they're also going to lose their domestic market because of Australia and New Zealand and whatever other crazy trade deals we sign up with, maybe one with Brazil, who knows. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.